So the first question, of course, has to be, we keep reading all these stories about companies, specifically from a Wall Street point of view, who have got their mobile strategies right, doing well. The examples are led by social media, but even the Microsofts of the world, when the results are not good, you know that somebody is going to make a comment on how they got their mobile strategy wrong. What I want to understand from you is that when you read some of these things, what is the context that you have when it comes to the mobile marketing space? When you read some of the things in terms of what people are doing right or wrong, what is encouraging? Any example from a mobile marketing space? I'm going to do the thing of asking Taran to read. So he's going to be my first. Thank you, Taran.
Hi, Noor. So you put me on the spot right away.
Lovingly so.
All right, so, I think there's no rocket science and it's no hidden fact that today mobile's probably the first screen for the audiences. And marketers realize that. Marketers are evolving. It's not fair to say that marketing dollars are not coming towards mobile or marketers are holding back. It's just that I think as an industry, we've not been able to educate them well. Money is going towards television, it's going to print because they have the metrics which talks to the language of what our marketers understand. And we as an industry need to kind of simplify that and speak their language and give them what they want in terms of how they measure their campaigns on mobile. So yeah, I would say that India is in a good space. We are growing from an industry perspective, both in terms of users definitely, but revenue, I think, is not catching up at the space, but
right.
That's also because primarily to do with the way we as an industry are operating so far. But that I see changing very, very soon.
So that's like a really big statement, right? What are we as an industry doing wrong? And what is it that you're seeing changing?
I think what we are trying to do, and this is completely my opinion,
Sure.
and as an industry and coming especially from a sales side, I think we just get too busy with the transactional stuff of dealing with the marketer. And that's where the challenge is. When you go and talk to them about a brand and how today mobile as a platform can actually help them tick all their boxes from a marketing content or a media matrix, is when you actually get them interested. And it's not about doing a campaign for X amount of value and I'll give you X amount of impressions or reach or clicks. You need to have slightly far more evolved conversations with your marketer.
All right.
That's where the gap I feel is, because I think in all fairness, everyone's in business, and so far the industry has been very driven in terms of bottom lines and top lines. But I think this needs to be corrected. And it is being, in all fairness, it is being. It's not that it's not being. It is being.
Fair enough. I'm going to ask Rohit Kumar to please add to that, especially from an encouraging point of view or even a discouraging point of view that you think is, happening.
Yeah. Actually, I would like to segue from one of the points just made. I think if you look at the app space, right, and marketing from an app perspective, and I'm actually not based in India. I live in Singapore, and every time I come to India, you turn on the TV and you see the sheer number of businesses that are advertising their apps on TV. Right, this is the latest. I don't want to name them, but one after the other. So I think what tends to happen, I notice, is the business is heavily skewed towards installs. So, the objective is, okay, we've launched a new music app, we've launched a new classified app, we've launched a new replace with vertical app. And you find that businesses spend, millions of dollars in an install-based campaign to drive a certain amount of installs. But I think around the world, and I think the stats are not that different in India, you'll find that, 2 out of 3 apps are probably never opened. You'll find that, I'd say 1 in 5 people would use an app more than 2 times, So the post-install event is actually pretty important, right? So an app, like any other business, I think the objectives are pretty simple, right? You want more and more people to download your app, or you want more and more people to come to your business. Once they come to your business or come to your app, you want them to use your app, which is the post-install event. And once they do that, you want to drive stickiness, right? You want them to keep using your app. Now, I think, the previous sessions talked about programmatic and the role of tech in this. There's plenty of options today which really helps marketers to drive that engagement, right? To drive re-engagement, to drive loyalty. And I don't see that. I think that's, probably a sector that's sort of untapped. Everyone is heavily skewed towards that install. I feel it's like the 600-pound gorilla in the room. I think it's about $5 billion spent worldwide on app installs, which people don't follow up on.
That's right,
Which I think is slowly changing, but it's still early days. So I think that would be one example. You know, it's almost a slam dunk if you get that right, and technology can help you, but it's still very heavily skewed with how many installs can you drive for me.
Fair enough. Thank you so much. I want to understand something about mobile. My grouse or my confusion with mobile has been, we compare it with television very quickly, right? And the way television grew, the television ad spend. Truth of the matter is that in television, the first thing that came was the audience because of the content. So they were a set of really smart people putting out really good shows or movies, and there was audience. And all the advertiser had to do was make a really great 30-second commercial, and he has got all that audience, and hence that money. In mobile, we are still dependent on content that is otherwise available on any other media anyway, or a huge confusion on what does exclusive content on mobile eventually mean. So how should we define content on mobile? And I'm hoping Rupa can answer that question for me. It's area of forte, really.
As someone who runs a company that is all about content, to us, you know, we don't view it as a separate medium. To us, you develop your content strategy. Mobile is just an additional platform, right? And obviously with its own peculiarities and wonderful features. I just wanted to establish that because it's relevant for, I think, a lot of the discussion we're going to have.
Sure.
But coming back to your question in particular, Noor, I think that in terms of content, it's not true that there isn't mobile-specific content. I think we're looking at video content perhaps when we say that, but if you look at gaming, that's very strong on mobile, and there's stuff which is purely mobile. So it is there. Coming to video content per se, I think that it's also a matter of the kinds of platforms that exist. If you look at YouTube, and I don't know, is there anyone from Google in the room?
Not right now, they're within the
Okay,
afternoon.
great. So if you look at the YouTube interface on mobile, it really sucks. Okay, and it's a fact, they also know it, right? I mean, it's not conducive to really doing much. It doesn't invite you or draw you into actually consuming content. Have you guys seen Vessel? How many people here know Vessel? Okay, doesn't that completely blow things apart? It does, right? So it's been imagined from mobile, and it draws you in completely. And if you have more attention paid to UI, UX, etc., the ecosystem grows, thereby promoting the consumption and the creation of content specifically for mobile. Again, there's no reason for it to only stick to mobile, but it can originate on mobile. If you look at Snapchat, which has had its own kind of shows, I don't know, I was going to say TV shows on Snapchat, but that would be a misnomer. So it's got its own Snap shows that have been around. So I don't think we're far away from a situation where that's going to happen more and more. So it is already happening.
All right, perfect. So, but Rupak, even from your point of view, because you say gaming is also content on mobile, right? And our typical definition of content, when we are looking at it from a marketer point of view, is what can he latch onto really quickly? What gives him a way to probably innovate or connect? Now, in gaming, of course, there are a lot of in-gaming options, some of which work, many of which don't. Right, so content on mobile from that point of view, and earlier today, in fact, Arjun from your team was making a point that it can be intrusive when you're on mobile. It is interruption, and not every interruption is innovation. That's what Tushar said before jumping that ship. But the point is that while this is true of what you're saying, mobile has its own sense of content, but that content is not really helping the marketer right now.
I guess that's because it's being done in an intrusive manner, right? I think the fundamental rule of mobile is if you provide value, and I guess that's the fundamental rule of any medium right now, which is when we're living in an age where you can't just turn off the TV or change the channel, right? You can and you have all that control, right? So you have to provide something of value, otherwise that content is not going to be consumed. So in the same way, and it's very easy, there are so many different ways to provide that kind of gratification, value, additional stuff. I mean, there are companies whose entire business model is based on providing that kind of value as a third party. So I think if you do it in that way, keeping that in mind, value exchange, then they'll be successful.
All right, perfect. Thank you again so much for that.
Okay, my name is Narayan. I work with VServe. Content strategy, as far as a specific medium is concerned, is not just whether I look at it from a digital perspective or mobile perspective. Why did Noor start saying that they would made a 30-second great commercial and place it on television? Who decided it was 30 seconds? Over the time, we decided that the medium and the attention span of the user, the break time, all of that was calculated, and 30
Pricing.
seconds is the most optimal time for a commercial, a maximum optimal time. In the same light, advertisers come to, probably a lot of sales guys sitting in this room, they come to us and say, run a 60-second commercial on mobile. Is that right? That is what I'm talking about, content made for the medium. Is 60-second commercial a viable? I mean, how many of you are happy with the connectivity we get? I'm not naming any telcos here, but is anybody in this room happy with the 3G services they're paying for? Anyone?
I got a call telling me I'm getting a 4G SIM yesterday. I'm really happy.
Please don't take it. No, that's the point I'm trying to make. So my question to the panel is that when I say mobile or medium-specific content strategy, we need to take pluses and the minuses of what medium is bringing to the table. And what, according to you, should be the first advice to a brand or an agency or to a partner who's trying to create a beautiful campaign for mobile? What is the most optimal thing? That is where the question starts. Can we actually run a 60-second commercial in India?
So I think more than just trying to customize existing commercials to the mobile medium, it's important to understand actually what the audience is doing on the mobile platform. So more than content, a lot of users are actually using the mobile device for a lot of utilities, for triggering a lot of searches, finding a lot of stuff, ordering food, doing a lot of things. So I think what brands and marketers need to understand that one important component which they have on mobile is to really track what the user is doing. And the question they need to answer is that how can they blend their advertising and their audience reach? Actually, more than advertising, it is actually they are reaching out to the audience. So how can they blend their mobile strategy with what the audience is doing and figure out what's the best way to reach out to that audience? So whether it's through native ads or it's through some custom ad formats. So like there are some very interesting ad formats like floaties, etc., which can be just moved around screens and doing stuff like that. So more than what I find as like I look at all the partnership side of things. So what more and more publishers are actually worried about is that how does running a 60-second commercial, or for that matter even a 30-second commercial, affect the user experience? Because what a publisher today is worried about is that how do I retain the user? How do I get the user to visit my platform more and more? And if there is an ad which is interfering with that experience, then the leading publishers don't really want that ad. So the marketer needs to understand and answer that question that a lot of them come with, like what you said, that fit my 60-second commercial into a mobile platform. That's not really the right approach. The right approach is to understand what the audience is doing and how do you blend in that. And that's something which I think, as sales guys, a lot of us need to work on and explain to the traditional brand advertisers and the marketers that how do you do that, and push push the limitations of just the existing banner ad formats or video ad formats and go beyond that.
All right, thank you, Vipul. Vipul represents Affle, by the way, so that's an interesting viewpoint. I saw Rohit take the mic, but we have a question here. Rohit, do you want to?
Yeah, just a quick comment to that.
Yeah.
I think there's also the risk that you sometimes tend to over-engineer it, right? So I think, at a very high level, you have to look at it as an opportunity to have a conversation with your customers, right? So I'm sure we have all seen different reports in terms of the number of mobile phones, but let's talk about smartphones. It's 100 million plus, right? So you're talking about a channel or a medium through which you can reach out to an audience that wide, and then you can dissect that in 150 different ways. Speaking to various providers here, that capability is there here and now. So I think. I think it's no different from actually starting out with the objective. What is the actual business objective? Is there a dedicated campaign that you've set up, a mobile sort of a microsite that you've launched for a new product, and then it trickles down, right? Fine, you want to drive X number of people to that site and go from there, right? I think the risk we see a lot when we meet customers is. And these are brands who are yet to take the first step, but when they take the first step, what they want to do is state of the art and something that has never been done before.
True.
So this sort of don't run before you can walk is something that I keep saying, and just I think get your hands dirty and don't over-engineer the whole thing.
All right, thank you. There's a question here.
Hi, I represent 9X Media. We are India's largest music television network. What my point is, television is a screen,
Yeah.
and mobile or the phone is also a screen. So there's this constant battle that we keep seeing across various presentations, TV, time spent on TV, time spent on mobile. So as a television broadcaster or as a marketer of a television broadcaster, what according to you should television companies do to connect with
So, I mean,
mobile
my
consumers?
point to you is, my question is, why are we using the word challenge or an alternate? Why can't it be complementary? I mean, the fact is that if you look at it, and I'm giving you first up because we see it on Twitter all the time, that whatever happens on live TV, especially big sporting events, or if it's big reality shows, or any kind of content, people tweet about it. We saw it in Cricket World Cup. I mean, Twitter had the second largest number of followers in terms of reach. We're seeing that in IPL in terms of the number of people involved and what happens in the thing. From a marketer's point of view, it's actually a brilliant place to be because you could reach out to people who are watching a particular content on their mobile in real time. And that kind of, adds more value in terms of the money they're spending both on television and this, and it kind of sits hand in hand. So why does it need to be either or? The fact is, from a marketer's point of view, I think it makes tremendous sense to kind of increase that reach because television is giving you this high number of eyeballs, but the device which the person has in hand is actually giving him the opportunity to engage with their customer. And the way to engage with the customer is to talk about what the customer cares about and not stand on the side and talk about, oh, this is me and this is what my brand stands for. That's not the point. So you need to look at it probably differently, in my opinion.
To your specific question, I think Sky in the UK is probably a good example for broadcaster that's pretty much adopted the multi-device challenge or conundrum. As much as you say, don't use the word challenge. And what they've done is you can essentially, quite similar to Hotstar. Here, this is 2-3 years ago. You'd have the My Sky app, all linking back to to your Sky account, your cable account, which is just like a cable provider. But the beauty with that was they had solved 2 years ago the cross-device point, right? So they could actually make a connection between somebody on the mobile and somebody on their laptop, right? Because the My Sky ID was identical, which then meant from an advertising perspective, there's so many things you can do. So I think this is 2 years out as an example for broadcaster that have pretty much adopted multi-devices.
Just to kind of add to a comment, just to give you a real example, Cricket World Cup happened, and we had one of the brands who was kind of partnering with us on Twitter. And what we did was we actually used TV targeting to serve their campaigns based on the conversations which were happening on Twitter. And the kind of engagement the clients got was almost like 5 times more than a regular organic campaign would get, because you suddenly get involved with people who are at that moment, watching stuff.
All right, so Amaresh here has a question, but before that, Taran, just for me to understand, the point that you just made about, prior to this, about second screening. So probably people are even watching more ads because of that, because they're on their phone, maybe chatting, maybe just, as you mentioned, tweeting about what they're watching and so on and so forth. How much are marketers in India actually connecting back with something like that? Is there any example you can share where somebody has made any intelligent use of second screening and been able to get some returns on that, which would allow for a repeat investment in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can talk about quite a few brands who actually now started to try TV targeting. We launched TV targeting in India. I mean, well, there are lots of examples from a global point of view, but specifically talking on India. Cricket World Cup is when we launched TV targeting in India as a targeting capability. And we had Club Mahindra, HDFC Live, Star Sports with their Mauka campaign. And we saw phenomenal results, and now they have become so strong with it that a lot of TV companies are actually coming to us and saying that we're launching a new show. Would you target people watching, a program on a competition channel at that time, asking them to tune in and watch our show? So that's how powerful it is and how real time it can get.
Right,
So
understood.
the fact is that, this is the only medium. I mean, think about it, and these are from Europe's, kind of studies we've conducted. When people watch sporting events or big ticket events on television alone, there is a certain amount of involvement. But on Twitter, we realized because they were actively engaged, it's like watching with a huge bunch of people and sharing what you think and also getting a point of view what others are talking about, which makes it more fun for them.
All
So
right.
that's a huge difference of how a consumer today is consuming content. At the end of the day, content's king.
And then the branch you mentioned, so HDFC you mentioned, I think, amongst one of the brands. You said they partnered with you when you were doing this with the marketer, with the broadcasters?
So no, it's not. So how it works is they're running a campaign on Twitter,
Right.
and we have the capabilities to real-time target
Fair
TV
enough, yeah.
conversations where we serve campaigns based on what people are watching on TV. So it could be that real-time.
So it's an add-on to what somebody was already watching on TV. Because cricket or IPL is such a big deal, some advertiser who already wants to leverage that property wants to come via you because there's an additional bonus of connecting to.
So I'll give you a very good example. I mean, just to kind of clarify it, Pantene in the US, we know Oscars happen every year, and it's a red carpet event.
Right.
Now, Pantene did not want to buy a TV spot during Oscars because it, costs a bomb. But before that, they have the red carpet event where you have people walking in. So what Pantene did was they had 4 artists sitting at Kodak studio in LA, which were doing some paintings, and it said, Pantene, I want that hair. And they basically ran a commercial spot for 30 seconds saying that, tweet at a time for an actress and we'll send you a tweet of how to make that hair. And the kind of response they got, because they ran this particular commercial before the start of Oscars. And as and when an actress was like, suppose if Jodie Foster walked through and somebody tweeted at that point of time with a hashtag to Pantene, they actually sent it that what hair she was doing and how could you make it at home for yourself.
All right.
So that kind of made it really, really engaging.
All right, fair enough. Thank you for that. And to Amaresh.
Hi guys. So I think I'll go back to what Noor mentioned earlier about what really qualifies as content on the mobile screen. And I think one thing which you'll all agree is a lot of brands who are conventionally marketers, whether they sell products, whether they sell transaction, banking, etc., have a certain organic pull for the applications on the consumer's mobile phone. So do you think there is an opportunity for these guys to actually also monetize those offerings via an organized publisher model? Because that itself is very, very useful content for the consumer.
Who's taking that?
So if I understand your question correctly, what you're saying is that a lot of brands are actually creating their own content for the consumers.
No. So what I'm saying is, for example, if you take Axis Bank, right, or any bank for that matter, you're likely to have the application on your phone because it's useful for you.
Yeah.
You might have a Book My Show application because it's useful for you. You might have a Flipkart application because it's useful for you. So is there a way for guys who are conventionally actually marketers themselves, guys like these, to also then become organized publishers or start monetizing that in a different way besides just in-app ads?
I think a lot of people are already doing that. So Flipkart is already doing it, Book My Show is already doing it. So anybody who reaches a certain scale, the only difference is that when you are a publisher yourself and you are actually, when you are an app yourself and you're actually publishing content for the users, then you are more, worried about what kind of ads are coming in that environment. So a Flipkart, for example, would the first people who would want to advertise on Flipkart would be the merchants who are actually selling their merchandise on Flipkart, because there is a direct relation. Similarly, on Book My Show, it would be probably more entertainment-related stuff, more event-related stuff. If a Book My Show, I mean, they could decide to do that, but if a Book My Show is running an ad which is not related at all to the kind of content they have, then they might not want to do that. But definitely the model is there, and there are more and more people who are getting into that.
And I'd just like to add to that, that this ecosystem is now getting developed. I mean, there is no one single success story anywhere in the world that this is the way to do and that's not the way to do. So while there are lots of experiments going on, but at the same time, there will be, we will see a lot more experiments coming in. And take the example of Flipkart, and obviously they are getting into this kind of advertisements. Take example of, say, news hunts kind of people who are in the business of news content, but at the same time advertisement happens to be their primary source of revenue. And you won't be we won't be surprised to see some days where news hunts advertisement in Flipkart and Flipkart advertisement in news hunts. So that kind of riding on each other and developing the next generation of the ecosystem is probably what we get to see in time to come.
I think just to add, I think those hybrid models. So yes, you have your own app, and you want to monetize it. I think they will absolutely come through, and technology today can really help you deal with the challenges there. So again, in this example, you talked about, okay, you don't want to promote a competitor on your app, right? So whoever is doing the monetization for you, whichever, SSP, I think every half decent SSP would have a feature through which they can, blacklist a bunch of, URLs. They could even block categories. You could put flow prices, dynamic allocations. I mean, the business is super sophisticated. I mean, you could, put 150 rules around who can actually access your inventory. Then you'd have a situation where you have a bank who has a lot of, who has a lot of content, and yeah, it makes sense for them to have messaging for a Book My Show or for something that's completely different, right? So if you could actually define those rules, so I think you'll find that technology helps to solve that, and it'll definitely come through once you have that critical scale of eyeballs.
All right. We are here making a case that there is consumer first mobile going on over there, right? So if Mondelez was going to do this again in 2015, would they be able to spend that the 10% global budget on mobile?
Again, there are different ways of looking at it, right? Even this, no, seriously. So, I mean, if you look at it from what is mobile, right?
Fair
even
enough, yeah.
Kan Khajura Station is mobile.
Yeah.
Putting content on SIM cards is mobile.
Fair
so, if you
enough, yeah.
really wanted to tick that box, you can. I don't think it's a problem to tick that box. Are they getting the results? Is that really, again, I come back to why would you actually decide you want to allocate that much before you figure out if your audience is there or not?
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Rohit?
Yeah, I mean, I love this question. I've heard a different version of this. I think it was the same brand about programmatic, right?
Yeah. Well, it was P&G, 60% on programmatic.
Yes.
Who talks that language, right? It's not
Yes,
my fault.
and I think, okay, to give you a binary answer, so if a brand wants to spend 10% of their global budgets on mobile, and if they can't do it, they should contact Sociomantic. We can definitely help them do that.
Oh, you did not do that.
I just did that because, I mean, I don't know who they were working with. In this day and age, if somebody wants to spend 10% of the budget, I agree with Rupak. The questions are, okay, let's talk about what is the objective. Should it be 10? I'd argue there are cases where it should be 50%. So for mobile-only businesses, right? For mobile-first businesses. So I think, yeah, if a brand wants to spend that percentage of on mobile, I think they definitely can. And if they can't, they're working with the wrong vendor.
Parijan?
Yeah, I completely agree with him. 10% is actually peanut today. I mean, looking at the kind of time that we are spending on digital world, kind of attention that we are giving, kind of importance it has in our life, I'm surprised why the person could not really find avenues to spend 10% of the revenue. Well, that was 2013. Now 2015, we collectively, the industry has learned a lot. There are many avenues, there are many out-of-box thinking which is now going on, so it is relatively going to be easier. But at the same time, if the person, whosoever in charge in that, cannot do it, I must say that, that's a wastage of money there. And the organization is actually not thinking out of box. Because if I am taking my age-old thoughts of television or conventional media spend and taking it and stretching it towards mobile or digital, well, I may find it difficult to even spend 5%. The moment I'm thinking out of box, the moment I'm connecting with the consumers, understanding their the specific needs, context and all, I agree with you. And 10% is nothing.
Wow, so you're saying Mondelez had the idea in the right place, but they didn't know how to do it right. Okay, people?
Yeah, I would kind of agree, like 10% is nothing, but it's all about defining the objective and what are you seeking from the medium. I mean, we have a lot of briefs coming to us wherein, for example, somebody would want, one of the online, online real estate brokering companies. I mean, they want people to come and, put up their house for rent or sale through a mobile banner ad. Now, obviously, if you have that kind of a marketing objective, you can't spend 10% on it because it's not an impulse thing. I mean, a user would not just see a banner and realize that, hey, I have a house which I need to put on rent. Let me immediately go and do that. But and then you want, somebody to come and quote you a cost per lead of XYZ. So obviously, I mean, if you're defining your marketing objectives in that manner, it is not going to happen. But if you are looking at targeting the right user, you are defining your audience correctly, then I don't think there is any other medium than mobile which can actually enable you to zero in on the user you want to target, chase him across, different publishers. Because I mean, you could have a heavy Twitter user and chase him across different channels. I mean, so the word publisher actually would slowly, start losing significance, because, I mean, he's a news reader, but a person who's reading news is going on to tomorrow a sports app, and I can target that user there as well. So it is all about defining the audience you want to reach out to, and then tracking that audience as he is using the mobile medium. And I think if that is done correctly, then I don't think 10%, I mean, like he said, even 50% is easy to spend.
All right, perfect. So just a little bit of a thing for the audience here. So they are all saying 10%, 10%. Let me please tell you that mobile is not even 5% of the digital ad budget of all of these advertisers. So these guys are just very mobile skewed. One second, I'm giving the mic to Vikas now for a cue.
Thanks, Noor. That was a good question, Noor. So my question is around, not much reflection has been done about what I call a state of need and a state of want. When I look at people consuming content on mobile, there are two contexts. One, when consumers are in desperate need of some information, so like when you're checking stock prices, you're checking weather. You don't want to be kind of given any form of marketing communications or advertising in that. And then there are times like gaming or entertainment when they are far more receptive to receiving marketing communications. And it's really coming from Noor's question here. She made that point that brands are chasing consumers in those environments, and somehow gaming doesn't come up into that, or entertainment doesn't come into that one. Why would brands not want to be in an environment when it's actually most receptive? Some thoughts on that?
So I can talk about what we do. Fortunate for us that we have enough data of the conversation levels which go on Twitter. So how we help brands is we realize that every type of conversation has a pattern across the week.
Taran, it'll be good, keep it from an industry standpoint. I don't want to see it. So Twitter has I know you've got your, your own formats that you do. So I want to kind of keep that question. It's more from an industry standpoint.
Sure.
And I'm talking specifically in genres like entertainment, lifestyle, gaming.
So I'm coming to that. What I'm saying is that when you monitor conversations about what people are thinking or monitoring, what happens is, let's take the word hungry. Yeah? There is a pattern to the word hungry of how people use it during the week. Now, if a marketer knows that between 4 and 6 in the evening is the time when people are talking about food the most, is the time when probably restaurant brands or fast food brands need to be targeting them, irrespective whether on Twitter or any other place, right? So I'm saying data is available there to figure out what people care about at certain points of time, and you can actually do very smart marketing based on what you as a consumer would want to see at a particular time.
All right, so that was a question from Vikas from Opera. So just for the audience to know, who already saw him earlier today, from Khushru.
Hi, I'm Khushru, and sorry Vikas, but I would hate to be troubled when I'm gaming, because I want to do my gaming when I'm gaming. Sorry, but no, but I'm wearing multiple hats here because when I'm gaming, I don't want to be troubled. The problem that I have is that again, I am wearing multiple hats in my professional life. So I have a home delivery food business that I'm running, which is where I'll have the problem that we're talking about, and at the same time, we're representing a social media platform where we would want to do what we were talking about on the mobile platform today. So really the question is that I think somebody on the previous presentation mentioned that about 73% of mobile application usage is on food or restaurants driven stuff, and there was some large percentage on entertainment. So I'm saying entertainment, like you said, gaming, food, these are kind of more the large percentage usage of mobile on usage of the end users on mobile. My question really is that for brands which are non-related to these industries, or maybe publishers, how do they use the mobile more effectively? Like, I don't know if I made my question clear, if any of you understood what I'm saying. But maybe like a Nike, there was a very good idea about that Nike ad. I'm not sure if it was Nike, but was it Nike, where the colors changed and Reebok, okay. So the Reebok ad was very interactive and nice, but I'm not sure I would like to look at the Reebok ad if I'm doing something else which is in my private time. So that's not a need or a want. So a brand like Reebok or Nike or something like that, how do they use it? Whereas entertainment, publishers, food industry, they still want, there is a need.
If I may, I guess firstly again it's about where your audience is. Secondly again we're talking about advertising. Nike for example, I think they've had one of the biggest success stories of using a mobile. The entire Nike Fuel platform, the Nike Plus platform and the Nike Fuel device. Again now mobile, I mean I'm taking the liberty of expanding that to wearables as well because it is kind of closest to mobile. We don't have, unless you start a wearables conference next year we can talk about that, right? And so I think that it's, again, if we focus only on advertising, it's a different story. I mean, that Nike Plus platform actually succeeded in, I can tell you personally, for about 3 years, Nike became as relevant to me as a brand and created as much brand love in my head and heart as Apple has done. And that's a really high bar for me, right? So, and that was purely on mobile. Without it, it would never have happened. So there are different ways of looking at it, not just, it's about engagement at the end of the day.
All right, fine. So with that, we have pretty much answered all questions from the floor. Tarun, just your last word on if that 10% came in today, would Mondelez be able to spend it?
The answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. 2013, and I'm talking purely from our data perspective, 2013, 2014 is the big transformation when we saw our audiences moving from desktop to mobile. Yeah, I think Mondelez is a phenomenal brand. I think they've got it right. They have fantastic teams in terms of how they create content from a digital perspective. I think they're always ahead of the game, and I think they probably rushed into the 10% or whatever the figure might be, slightly too early rather when the consumer shift happened. Tipping point was beginning 2014 when we saw in our space, which we operate, the lead of mobile being the first screen rather than desktop in terms of consumption. So today, yes, more than 10% can be spent.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Now, again, a really loud round of applause for all of you and for this awesome panel.